All right. Thank you so much for being here. In case if you don't know where you are, this is the Beyond Remittances lunch. If it is not, please stay. Okay? Anyway, this is going to be a very intimate lunch, and we'll try to make it as engaging and participatory as possible, but the conversation is going to not just, we're starting a conversation rather than ending them here. So on that note, we're going to start with our keynote. It is my distinct pleasure and an honor to introduce, this is probably my first time introducing her on a panel, right? It's my boss, Special Representative Dorothy McAuliffe, who started at the department about 5 months ago now. Yeah, 6 months ago. Man, time flies when you're having fun, they say. And so she is the head of the Office of Global Partnerships, who is the door, the window to the outside world for the Department of State to create solutions, to create solutions for these wicked problems we face around the world. And remittances and diasporas are a key ingredient, a key partner of us to doing so. So it's my pleasure to bring in on the panel my boss, my friend, Dorothy McAuliffe. Please.
Thank you, Tomas. And just to be clear, there's only one boss in that office, and I work for Tomas. I'm so grateful to have his knowledge and his experience. He's been with the Office of Global Partnerships since its foundation 14 years ago. And I know he is familiar to most of you in this room. And he is just an incredible asset to the State Department, to the government of the United States, and a real treasure. So thank you, Tomas. I want to thank you all for joining us today and this working lunch, and hopefully you don't have to work too hard, that this is something you all care, I know, deeply about, this issue of remittances and the potential for creating magic and investment in a future beyond what we could possibly hope for Africa, which is a top priority for all of us. I am the special rep for the Office of Global Partnerships. My office engages every day with private sector leaders to build partnerships that create positive global impact while advancing the priorities and foreign policy of the United States government. We are very proud of the work we have done with partners on the continent, whether it be spurring African entrepreneurship, tackling climate crisis, ensuring delivery of safe COVID vaccinations, or fueling sustainable and equitable growth across Africa. Our office is highly engaged in achieving the shared goals of everyone in this room. And I want to start by thanking our friends and partners at the African Diaspora Network. Specifically, I want to thank Almez Nagash and her team, who have been extraordinary in convening all the expert minds and leading voices we have here today. I also want to acknowledge ADN's benefactor, the Gates Foundation, whose help also made today's lunch possible. So thank you very much. The purpose of this lunch and this summit altogether is to use this unique opportunity to listen and to learn from one another so that we can achieve better outcomes for the people of Africa, the United States, and the world. And we have much to discuss when it comes to remittances from the African diaspora. The importance of remittances can't be understated or ignored, as how remittances are leveraged will play a key role in the growth of the continent. It was wonderful to hear the president of Ghana with his history lessons today. I don't know how many of you heard him speak about the importance of remittances to the growth of China and its economy. The focus of this session is forward-facing. How do we turn remittances into material investments into African economies, channel them into the right and most promising new markets, and finding additional flows beyond remittances of support into the continent? The World Bank reports that in 2021, remittances to sub-Saharan Africa grew 6.2%. To reach a total of $45 billion US dollars. And actually, our Deputy Secretary of the Treasury today said it was $46 billion. So I'm going to go with his number as the accurate one today. But the weight of remittances, in particular African economies, is quite robust. In 2021, remittance inflows comprised 34% of Gambia's GDP, 24% of Lesotho's GDP, and almost 16% of Cabo Verde's GDP. And their significance will only continue to grow. As the post-COVID economic recovery expands in the US and Europe, so too will the remittance flow to Africa. And this afternoon, to help us think through these key issues around diversifying the African economy, we'll have the pleasure of listening to some of the leading voices in the space as they discuss remittance flows and the key opportunities beyond remittances we must take to take advantage of on the continent. We'll hear from a panel of public and private sector experts, and there will be a Q&A portion that follows. So I encourage folks to please take notes and prepare thoughtful questions for our expert panelists after they are finished. And finally, the challenges we discussed today won't be finally resolved over the course of a lunch, of course. We'll need new partners and new ideas and new energy to diversify the African economy in a truly sustainable fashion. So I hope today provides you the opportunity to get to know one another, to exchange business cards. So the next most important step is not the talking, but the action. So let's get to that. Enjoy your lunch, and Tomas will come back up to the stage. Thank you.
So next, I have the pleasure of introducing the chief economist from the African Development Bank. I was just mentioning to him that I started my career, I was an intern at the AFDB a long time ago, and I was just sharing that with him. So Professor Kevin Rona, who's the chief economist of the African Development Bank, please welcome him. He's going to share with you his thoughts about remittances on the continent.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So first, I'd like to really thank the organizers for the opportunity to share my thoughts on this very important topic today. This event really comes on the heels of one that we organized with the African Union Commission, the International Organization for Migration, and then also the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat in the first week of December, looking at how to leverage the diaspora for inclusive growth and sustainable development on the continent. Before I start going into that, I just want to remind us what huge opportunities that this continent, Africa, is for everyone, for Africans living in the diaspora, but also for Africans or people of African descent living outside the shores of the continent. The continent has a population of 1.4 billion people currently. And this is about 17% of the global population. And this is estimated to grow to up to 2.2 billion by 2050. And with a median age of just below 20 years of age and over 400 million people young and under the ages, between the ages of 15 and 35, you can agree with me that Africa is one of the youngest populations in the world, and hence provides opportunities for innovation, opportunities for trade, entrepreneurship, and also opportunities for education and other solutions. Africa also has huge natural capital, natural resources. We're always talking about the natural resources abundance on the continent. But Africa cannot grow because of the abundance of the natural resources in oil, gas, minerals, metals, and also extensive green minerals. If you think about lithium, cobalt, copper, and many more minerals are still very abundant on this continent. So the continent still remains a treasure trove for investors calling for investments to come into the continent. So why not the diaspora taking that opportunity? Africa is also hosts 65% of the uncultivated arable land left in the world to feed the world. So as the world goes through stress because of the war in Ukraine and the food price inflation, energy price inflation, there's a lot of solution that African continent can provide. Africa's agriculture has immense opportunities to turn cocoa beans into chocolates, to turn cotton into textiles and garments, to turn coffee into brewed coffee, and many more. These are huge opportunities in our motherland, Africa. Calling on you as African diasporans and friends of Africa to come and invest.
I want to start with gratitude and really thanking everyone, all of you, for being here, but also really for our partners at the State Department. Special thanks to Thomas for always believing in the African Diaspora Network. We could not have started the African Diaspora Investment Symposium without the support of the U.S. Department, the U.S. State Department in 2016. And we're going stronger and stronger, and we're going to celebrate the 8th annual. Nobody thought we could do that, but we did. And I want to thank you, Thomas, for your leadership. I want to also give special thanks to Special Representative McAuliffe. I don't know where she is, but just want to say thank you for all the support. I want to thank the team at the State Department. Anna Marie, my favorite one. Avery, well, we've done a lot of work in the last 3 months. I want you to know that the lunch that you're having, this whole thing took about 3 months, a lot of us to work together diligently to put it together. The commitment is just beyond me, and I just want to thank you. And Malika, I don't think she's here, but I want to give her my special thanks. And I want to also thank Professor Urama for starting us and giving us all the details that we need to hear about how to move forward. We're going to make this conversation forward-looking. What can we do beyond remittances? You're going to hear from these incredibly brilliant 3 people that I happen to be lucky to know. But I am going to give special thanks to my team. Megan, you're amazing. Thank you. Thank you for all that you do and for holding up. Mohammed, thank you. He's somewhere here. Nettie and everyone else who has supported this. And then, of course, we cannot do this without the funding. And I want to give special thanks to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And Thomas, thank you so much. Mortaz, for doing this. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to start with Professor Jabril. He is the director of GK Partners, visiting professor and in practice at the London School of Economics and Political Science. He's the lead consultant on diaspora and innovative finance for the Africa Union Commission. Thank you so much for being here. Samhar Araya. Boy, do I love this woman. She's amazing. Samhar. I just saw her in New York as well, so great to see you. Samhar serves as head of the Diaspora Public Policy for MEDA Africa, Middle East, and Turkey Public Policy Team, where she provides guidance on the company's political policy priorities and opportunities for engagement with AMET. Africa, Middle East, and Turkey. Oh, it used to be EMEA. Okay, good. You see, I'm getting old. Benjamin, I met Benjamin several years ago. He was one of our speakers. Thank you, Benjamin, for being here. Benjamin Fernandez is the CEO of NALA, Tanzania. He's a Tanzanian entrepreneur. Noting that the millions of dollars spent on transaction fees by Africans, he sought to improve the remittances economy through NALA, a consumer business payment platform. NALA recently raised $10 million. Boy, I'm so proud. $10 million backed by leading U.S. investors as a Y Combinator and Axel partners. The reason I'm so proud of that 10 million is, as you all know, the greatest challenge, the biggest challenge for diasporans and any Black Americans to get ahead is access to financing. When I see that we're talking about 10 million with Benjamin and others making it, I think we are getting somewhere. So I'm very proud and thank you for what you do. Thank you. So let me just start with the first question. One protocol is that you respect your time so that we can let you get out at 4:30. But we have a few minutes to go through this first question. What new approaches and investment opportunities are trending across the continent? Please take 2 minutes each to share your thoughts. So maybe I'll start with Benjamin.
Awesome, good Afternoon, everybody. Hi, my name is Benjamin. I'm from Tanzania, and it's great to be here. I think one of the things I find really interesting, even just tied to remittances, is our largest market is the UK. So in the UK, I think all the data across remittances is completely wrong. First of all, I think they're significantly larger and not unaccounted for. And so I'm going to give a quick example. So if I take you to East London and take you around, we can go to a barbershop in East London and go get a haircut. Once you build enough trust with the person who runs the barbershop and you ask them like, hey, I want to send money to Ghana, the barbershop will, if they trust you enough, they'll pull out their cell phone and pull out WhatsApp and show you a bunch of rates and tell you, which rate do you want? And you'll tell like, oh, so you decide on the rate that you want to send to Ghanaian cedi from pounds, and they say, okay, give me cash or send it bank transfer to my UK bank account, which is instant bank transfers. And so I tried doing this, and the money arrived in Ghana in 3 hours from the UK. It's all built on trust, manual Hawala networks. So even though technology got better, these services still go on, right? And it's built on trust. And so one of the things that is really fascinating is even with the amounts of money that's sent, all those transactions aren't counted as remittances. Money carried on planes isn't counted as remittances. Transactions that are done through payment aggregators aren't counted as remittances. And so there's a lot more remittances that are happening directly that people don't know of, and I think the numbers are 2 or 3 times the size that they actually are listed for. So new things that are popping up. So because we work in the cross-border payment space, some of the things that we find really interesting, and some of the things that we can't resolve as Nala ourselves because somebody else can build it. A lot of people send money for healthcare, so who's enabling people to buy insurance for their families. The challenges with that is people don't trust that insurance and healthcare services will actually support their families, and so there's an education piece that becomes really expensive to do. The second thing we find is based on salary payments. So in the UK, we can almost predict our transaction volume on the 26th of the month because most people in England get paid on the 25th. And so we know these customers are going to send money, this amount of money on this day, and it's always consistent every single month. But now one of the things that pop up is we have customers reach out to us and saying, hey, I have this family emergency, my mom is sick or whatever, let's say it's the 15th or the 16th of the month, and they said, can you just front me the money and I'll pay you back on the 26th, right? So is there any idea of like send now, pay later that could be brought up for diaspora remittances directly? The third thing is goods and services. So one thing you find is behavioral trust for diaspora. So a lot of people who are sending stuff, one of the things that we found really interesting at Nala is in Kenya, for example, with M-Pesa. So I used to work in M-Pesa 10 years ago. And so mobile money, that was when I was exposed to all the rails. And one of the things we found really interesting is how do you enable people to pay for goods and services directly so they don't have to pay their cousin or pay their relative and hope that the relative takes that money to use for the good and service. And so in Kenya, we just launched direct pay bills where people can pay for those goods and services directly to any till number in Kenya. So as remittances has evolved, I think remittances will always be there and will always be something that we are responsible for as African diaspora. But if you look at the data, last year alone, 41 million people left the African continent. That's the recorded number, right, across to different regions around the world. Now, with a continent of 1.3 billion people, that means those people will keep sending more and more money back home. And so I'm really curious and excited for the conversation today, but those are some of the things that we've been learning in the UK and in the US with our business.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So, Samhar, what are the new innovative things taking place with your Meta?
Yeah, in the interest of time, because I think we can get into a lot of things. At Meta, what we know is that our products, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, our tools, the ways that you can build groups and communities, are already being utilized by communities around the world, but in particular diaspora communities. Whether it's to organize and make impact in the countries that they reside in or the countries that they are descendants of or that they emigrated from, we know that there are multiple nonprofit, humanitarian, business, entrepreneurial, creative efforts already underway on the platform. So our goal is really to understand, one, the user experiences of these diaspora communities from wherever they are. Now, I cover Africa, Middle East, and Turkey. It's not unique to our region. As we sit here as Africans, it is a global phenomenon of diasporas using our platform in this way. But what we know is that the African diaspora impact has really coincided with the with the trajectory of innovation and technology. And so one thing I always like to emphasize is there are key moments in the industries around the world where industries understand the impact of the diaspora before it becomes mainstreamed. And in the 70s, it used to be the mail, the postal system, where we were sending letters, right, globally. And then after that, it was telecom, where calling cards, diaspora communities were looking for calling cards everywhere. Now it's really become tech, and we see that our tools and the ability of people to connect from their phones and find each other and build community is the next advent of this facet of diasporas. Why is this important? Because this is the tip of the spear for what we have to also explore. We are now looking at the future of technology and looking at it through the metaverse, as you've heard, virtual reality. We know that in the United States, when we talk about industries like gaming or fitness, health, and wellness, that doesn't really sit with many African diaspora communities at first glance. But overwhelmingly, these are young people who are maybe in their teens to college and early adults who have become accustomed to a virtual reality world. So for Africans in the diaspora, we should recognize and consider ourselves as part of that demographic of young first and second generation Africans, children of immigrants who are growing up in households with these tools at their disposal. So what we're really excited to see is how diasporas are being innovative in this space, virtual reality, online, and social media, and through ventures like what Nala is sharing with how WhatsApp comes into play for getting business done. I can go on and on, but I'm going to stop there.
Thank you, Samhar. Thank you. So, Jabril, what I would like you to do, just a context that I haven't said before. I think it's very important for transparency and where we're heading with this. So in 2020, at the Africa Diaspora Investment Symposium, there was a panel session, and I was moderating this session, and I probably made some people unhappy simply by saying this. The success of Africa would be, to me, clear when remittances are no longer needed. We have to be very honest about it. The reason people need remittances is because there is no conducive ecosystem to really help them to become to take care of themselves. And so they need that additional funding from their children, friends, and that to send money. And so my wish was, and this is almost all of us from the diaspora, we know this, we think about this all the time. If there was a trusted platform where we can begin to invest a portion of our savings to go beyond our own home country. So if I'm Eritrean and there is an opportunity for me to invest in Ghana, Nigeria, Senegal, why not? But how do I do it? Where do we go about doing this? Because we are also very well known for not trusting, simply because of how we came to be where we are. And so there's a relationship, there's an engagement, there is an awareness to be worked at. But I think just to bring you forward, in March of this year, the Africa Union invited a few of us, where Jabril was leading a discussion on the Africa Diaspora Finance Corporation. This is the new platform that the Africa Union has been working and that Jabril has been leading. So what I would like to ask Jabril, because he's looking forward, so are we. How can we use, so I want you to take a little bit of time to explain this because not everyone knows about this. We would like to see how can this platform and this institution that is going to be built in the next 3 years or 4 years can be utilized by the diaspora so that we can actually talk about beyond remittances.
Thank you very much, Almaz. And I'll just pick up on the point that Professor Rama made about the need for vehicles. So this thing with the African Union would be one of many, hopefully very many and diverse vehicles. The context is there are 4 main types of diaspora finance. The one that we all know about and is better understood than all the other 3 is remittances. People sending money to friends and family. But there's diaspora philanthropy. People sending money to people they don't know. There is diaspora direct investment. People sending money for businesses that they manage or run themselves. And there's diaspora portfolio investment. people sending money in regulated financial products. This work we're doing with the African Union is to focus on diaspora portfolio investment, because it is the least developed of all of this. Each of these 4 different types of diaspora finance have a whole rationale and history and dynamics within them, and they will remain so. Remittances, I think you've mentioned, Nala, is not new in Africa, and it's likely to continue because people are supporting family and friends. Why should that stop? It should continue. I refer to those of you who like literature, a book published in 1962, a novel called Lomanda by Senegalese writer Sembène Ousmane. It was called The Money Order. It was about remittances. So that's that dynamic. Beyond remittances, as you are telling us, would be these other ones we've not developed. And the African Union made a commitment way back in 2012 at the Global African Diaspora Summit in South Africa that they would do something, a legacy project on diaspora investment. It took a long time before any movement, but in 2018 they commissioned me to do a piece of work. We did a big research and consultation, and in summary we propose that they set up, they cause the setting up of an African Diaspora Finance Corporation as an independent, standalone social enterprise that would do innovative finance, but would also offer diaspora bonds, diaspora targeted bonds, which some African countries may not be able to do themselves. A big country like Nigeria can do it. Guinea-Bissau and Gambia may not be able to do it. So that's where we are. And there's a leaflet around, I think you've kindly distributed, so the details of it are there. But just to touch the last point on when it's set up, it would be a product, a regulated bond, which targets particular projects that not only the African diaspora, us first generation, the historic diaspora, but friends of Africa, impact investors would be able to do. My current approach to the question of trust and risk in Africa is a petulant one. It's a petulant one because, as we've heard and seen, African financial institutions are amongst the best run in the world. We've heard a little bit about African Development Bank, winning medals everywhere and ratings. Many years ago, they caused the creation of Afrexim Bank. Afrexim Bank is turning over billions, have transformed credit financing and trade financing in Africa. And the serious people amongst us, all of the debates we have amongst us about distrust, there is also a great deal of trust. ADN, the work that ADN does, if anybody tells me I don't trust African diaspora organization, why would I listen to them? So in my view, my petulance now towards this approach is those who think that we're backward and we fight amongst ourselves, let them think that. But the products and the institutions would be run on the highest standards, and those who wish to come would come. But it would be run with such excellence that those who look down on us with distrust would rue the day they thought that we will collapse our organization. There is no more time to debate it. It's just to do it or not to do it. Thank you.
That's what I love about Jibril. Let's just do it. We have been talking. He keeps saying, we have so much research on this thing. Let's just go ahead and implement it. So thank you. Looking forward. Benjamin, similar question. So how can we trust? And I think this is always the issue of trust. Nala. How do we trust Nala? What features does Nala offer that gives the diaspora confidence in using the platform? Because Jibril was saying that it does not have to be one or the other. We'll have many, many such platforms. How do they get access to it? How do we trust it?
Yeah, thank you. I think there is, like with cross-border payments, when you just think about baseline remittances, people care most about three things in this order. Number one is fee of the transaction that people are getting. So how much dollars am I sending? How many pounds am I sending? What are the Tanzanian shillings, Kenyan shillings, or Ugandan shillings, whatever currency you're sending to. Number two is time of delivery. So like how long it takes to deliver the money, like from you hit send in the US till it gets delivered in the wallet or a bank account locally. And then number three, which is, there's a wide gap. So those two are like the most important ones, is with direct remittances, and there's a wide gap. And the third thing would be transaction limits. So how much money can I send? And why this matters is for people who are building houses or things like that, they want to have larger limits. The challenge is we have to be compliant in different regions by local regulators by how much we can allow people to send, because you don't know what the money is being used for, and you have to do KYC and verification that people are authentic and this is actually their source of funds. Now, with Nala, what we've done differently for a few things is, one, we provide some of the best, probably the best FX rates to Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, Ghana, and Rwanda today from the US. And so this is one of our biggest markets. We serve those corridors in those regions, and we really try to provide that because we have two parts of our business. We have a consumer product, which is an app-based service you can download on your phone today. We also have a Nala for Business, which is for businesses that trade with Africa. So businesses in the US that are sending large amounts of money to Africa work with Nala, and we provide them different services to move their money from here to Africa, but providing really good FX rates locally. Now, other things that we do for the customers and things that we have coming up, one of the things we've been really exploring with bonds and bills like that is, Africa is the most expensive in the world, place in the world to send money to. Africa is also the lowest income region in the world. However, there's two things you have to keep in mind with Africa. There's a massive dollar shortage in the African region, which means the dollar demand is extremely high, and most banks can't supply businesses with the dollar demand. Therefore, a lot of the global currency for trade is US dollars, right? So how are you enabling global companies and global businesses to trade with the African region when there's a dollar, there's a lack of dollars in the market, right? And so this morning, for example, I met with two African billionaires. We had breakfast this morning, and the first ask for them was, "Can you sell us dollars?" Right? And I'm like, I can't service your demand for the amount of dollars you need. And they're coming to us to approach us for $1 because they want to buy dollars for trading currencies. So what we do as well with that is, one of the things I would love to explore is, because there's this gap in the market, and we have to look at currency risk in the region. Like Ghana's currency devalued more than any other currency in the world this year. And looking at that, what does that mean for people? Even if you issue treasury bills or T-bills for people locally, you basically after 6 months, you're not making money, you're losing money from what the currency was worth back then. So what we do now is direct-to-consumer payments. We pay to any mobile money account in 5 countries that we serve. Bank accounts, all the bank accounts in those 5 countries as well. We also enable people to do instant repeat transfers and then manage business accounts directly. So those are some of the things we do. We've got lots more to build. We won't be able to build it all, and I'm excited for people in this room who'll build some of those services as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thanks, Benjamin. So, Samhar, what kind of policy advocacy can Meta play in terms of mobilizing the diaspora in moving beyond remittances? So it's almost like using these platforms. What kind of policies? You are in it. So.
I can. So what's important to know is that we've put out these products, we put out these tools, but we really haven't gotten to understand how diasporas are using it and how they're impacted by it and what kind of impact they're making. So what we've been able to understand is there's 3 main pillars that diasporas are using our products for. It's for social impact, economic impact, and civic impact. Social impact ends up being a lot of the NGO work in arts and culture, storytelling, cultural heritage and preservation. You'll find museums, cultural institutions utilizing our platform to really amplify and showcase. But it's really the economic impact that I find the most fascinating, to Jibril's point, because that is where we see diaspora philanthropy, we see fundraisers, we see campaigns, we see groups taking on initiatives. We also see entrepreneurs being able to sell their own products. Entrepreneurs can learn from each other. On Instagram and others, I think you know these things as users, but what we are realizing is that those platforms are critical so that they can get the product into buyers' hands on the continent, or vice versa. We have African SMBs who are utilizing to reach diaspora audiences. I'm one of them. I rely on our platform so I can find my clothes, because that is the only space to find African fashion designers and be able to engage with the shop. So there's a store in Nigeria that I actually WhatsApp with all the time, and we are on a WhatsApp back and forth with questions. So that is how I get my customer service as a diaspora. The last thing on economic, what I'm also very excited about is, while remittances will continue to exist, I think we will see new and creative ways of how diasporas can be investors, and how they can either pool funds or be creative, not just for emergencies or necessities like tuition and building a home, but really creative projects. And so when examples like Jabril's come to mind, it's also a reminder that while the brick and mortar work is underway, there will be a parallel effort online in the digital space, and that will probably take off faster by newcomers that we may not know yet. And it's just how do we can bring the digital experience and the real world experiences of diasporas beyond remittances, beyond the engagements we do here, because I really think that's what we're going to see 5 to 10 years. It's already happening, but it's going to take off very soon.
Thank you, Samha. So I know that time is of the essence, and I'm very, very attuned to that, and I can see the numbers flying. So, okay, good. So I'm going to ask a question, and if you can just quickly answer this question. What public-private partnership can be leveraged to help diasporans go beyond remittances? I think we're talking about it, but it really would be great to just have some. So you want to start there?
So for us, what that looks like is we oftentimes align with organizations and small businesses and entrepreneurs, and we co-create programs or initiatives with them. We're not the kind of company that does the traditional corporate social responsibility work. It's real policy programs work. So what we really seek is for diaspora entities who have ideas that they want to build out that are digital by nature, that are targeting the diasporas, that are targeting Africa, and really seeing where do our platforms, products, and tools come into play. That is how we do business, or that is how we engage with our policy stakeholders. It also is worth noting that the other parts of my team, my team is focused on diasporas as drivers of policy outcomes. That is indirectly also related to government policies and what entry points they create for diasporas to make impact. So I also work very closely with our regional policy teams for different government opportunities of what diaspora policies do we have in terms of engaging with government and engaging with diasporas.
Thank you, Samhar. So, Jibril, to that question, similar
Yes.
question.
Yes, I think one area I'm particularly interested is partnerships to access diaspora savings. So we know about 100 billion is going to all of Africa through remittances, which in fact in 2019 my study said it's 200 billion, counting the informal you're talking about, and what I also call remittances in kind, where someone asked me, my cousin is starting a business, $2,000. I sent $2,000 and a computer that cost $2,000. So the computer is not counted. So that's the 200 billion that's going. But there is every year, conservatively, first generation Africans have a saving every year of 33 billion that is not going to Africa. And that is perhaps not earning much returns where they are. And diaspora bonds and other vehicles that would mean public-private partnerships, it's important to do that. And these public-private partnerships, I think when we're talking of diaspora organizations have to remain a key partner. This is important to emphasize because when government and big institutions come to play, their starting point is to displace the diaspora and the smaller organization routinely. They don't do it because they dislike us. It's the habit of the big players. That's what they do. But they ought not to do it. It is not right. So in this partnership, that government people who are in this room and big institutions, just be aware of that. It is important that the diaspora retain this space. And then diaspora organizations would help through these networks, formal and informal, to give confidence by effectively word of mouth on the different vehicles and institutions through which they can channel their investment for both financial and social returns.
You know, I am so glad you said that, Jibril, because 12 years of trying to bring our community together, trying to build that relationship, the engagement, the effort it takes to really create a network like ADN is not something you take it for granted. I don't, because I sweated for it. I mean, I really do. It's a wonderful one because I love to do what I do. But that does not mean it's an easy thing. And to see it displaced will be really an unfortunate thing, simply because we are able to do what we're doing today because the State Department was the first one to trust what we were doing and say, oh, we'll support you. And that kind of relationship takes time, so patience is needed. But at the same time, yes, if they want to touch these kind of organizations, I think they better stop at the door. Simply, even for the African governments, having to work with Diaspora Network is so crucial for them in order to be sure that they actually reap the benefits of the diaspora, whether it's the knowledge, the talent, other resources that the diaspora can bring. So that's a fantastic point on both of you.